Hello and welcome to my channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. My name is Alfonso Peluso and I'm a Studio Associate Professor in the College of Architecture at IIT, the home of the legendary Mies van der Rohe, and I'm adjunct faculty at Columbia College Chicago in the Interior Architecture program. Shout out to all my students. I hope you're having a great day. It is a sunny late spring, early summer day here in Chicago, and it's a hot one. It's in the upper 80 degrees. I hope wherever you are, the weather is great as well there too. All right, today we're going to be looking at TwinMotion lighting, and we're going to create an image something similar to what you see on the screen here. And here is our outline, TwinMotion lighting, what we're going to be going over. Before we jump into that, head on over to YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Click on the subscribe button. Click on the little bell for all the notifications so you don't miss anything. Right now I'm in the middle of creating a whole bunch of real-time rendering engine videos. So I started with Enscape. I'm now in TwinMotion, and I'll be going into Lumion. So you can get used to all the real-time rendering engines and see which one works best for different scenarios or what works best for you. Alright, so go ahead and subscribe to me on YouTube and connect with me on Instagram at my first name Alfonso _ my last name Peluso. See what I'm up to, see what videos I'm making, see what I'm up to with my students. I just finished a great year of teaching at IIT and Columbia College. I had a lot of fun. I'm teaching summer school right now, and we're doing a lot of really cool renderings. Alright, let's jump into today's tutorial. So TwinMotion, if I go to my desktop, that's part of Epic Games, and TwinMotion is powered by the Unreal Engine that makes a lot of games. If you're a gamer, you'll be familiar with Unreal Engine. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on Epic Games, and I'm going to go to the TwinMotions tab, and I'm going to launch TwinMotion. I'm using TwinMotion 2023 1.1, so I'll go ahead and launch that. And I'm not going to start from scratch. I'm going to open up the Twin Menu Basics video file. So if you haven't checked out my TwinMotion Basics video, go ahead and check that out, and then you can come back over to lighting. So I'm going to open up my TwinMotion Basics file. Let that load in. So some awesome stuff we did in the TwinMotion Basics. It looks really great. And in the lower left we have my stats. So I'm at 41 frames per second right now. So the computer is doing okay handling how many polygons, 4.3 million polygons. You see that there. So we'll come back to the stats at the end of the video and see what our frame rate is. I haven't restarted my computer in a while, so that's probably factoring into it as well. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do over in TwinMotion is we're going to look at cameras. We're going to make a camera. So if you've seen my other videos, I'm used to making cameras and targets. I'm used to actually having the objects, a camera and a target, and being able to move those around. I don't have that in TwinMotion. I got to rely on panning and orbiting. So not my best light there, but I'm getting a little better at it. So let's head on over to TwinMotion, and let's zoom around here. And in case you didn't see the basics video or remember the basics video, if I go to Control P for preferences and I go to, oh, it's not Control P for preferences, but if I go to the little eye here and I click on show navigation and I make this bigger, show navigation, click away the eyeball, make this bigger, I can go to settings, and I have my navigation presets set similar to Rhino, because Rhino is my main software. So now when I pan and orbit around, I'm panning and orbiting like I would in Rhino. So I'm going to take that away. This little button just expands the rendering for us, and we can get in here the best we can. We're going to make an interior camera, so I'm going to setting that up, and we'll modify this as we go. We'll start with something like that, and I want to save this camera, so I go to media and I click on the plus, and I'm going to save this as, I'm going to get down there and click on the three dots and rename it. I'm going to call this one interior camera. Okay, I know the second thing on our agenda back over in Rhino is that we're going to look at the sun angles, and right now the sun is coming in through the rear of this space. I want it to come through the front of the space, so I'm going to change my time of day, see what I can get here. There we go. I'm not going to come in too far because I want to put some artificial lighting in, but I have it nicely shining on that back wall. So I'm going to refresh this camera so it saves it. Okay, so that saved the sun position for us. Alright, what's next? So we have exposure value and the sun brightness. So we're going to look at that. Okay, so details, it's hidden. It took me a while to find it, but the details is hidden here. And under details, I have auto exposure, I have sun intensity and sun size. Above that, I have the exposure, so I can make this image dark or I can make this image bright. I'm going to make it not too bright because I want some artificial lighting in there. I can adjust my sun intensity and make that sun intensity a little bit brighter. And then I have sun size, which I'm not really seeing because I'm not looking directly at the sun, so I can't see the sun size. But if I was looking at the sun, I would be able to change its size. And then it has the sun reflection, which is sometimes hard to see. It depends on the angle that you're looking at the camera, and the sun reflection would show up there. But in this case, my sun is probably too high to see a sun reflection. If my sun was really low, then I'd see a sun reflection on the floor, and then I can adjust these settings. Alright, what's next for us? So we've looked at the sun brightness, we've looked at the exposure value. Now we're going to add some assets in because we're going to do some lighting, so we want to add some furniture in. Okay, so I'm going to go over to my objects here in the library, and I'm going to go to home for residential stuff, things that you would put in your home. And I'm going to go to living room, and I'm going to go to chairs, and there's a nice really cool wire chair that I can bring in. I can just click on that and then just place it into my scene here, and I'm going to place 2 of those, and I can select those and I can rotate those as needed and move them around as needed. It's a little hard sometimes to move them. Let's see if I can get this working. There we go. Now I don't know exactly where I'm going to put them until I put my table in there. So I'm going to go back over to library, and I'm going to go down to objects, home, and I'm going to look for a table also under living room. I'm going to find tables, and I'm going to scroll on down, see what I can find here. I'm going to try this one here. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Alright, let's get my camera view back just by double clicking on this. Alright, so now we want to jump into lighting, and we want to make a spotlight that lights the chairs and the tables. Now I can do the lighting in TwinMotion, or I can do it in Rhino, and we're going to look at doing it in both Rhino and TwinMotion. So in TwinMotion, I could easily go over to lights, and I can click on spotlight, and you see I can drag that in here. I can drag it, and you see it working on the wall there and working on the other wall there. I want to put it just over my chairs and tables here, so I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to look over at properties and see what the settings are for that particular light. I have to select it, And then over in properties, I have color. I'll just go down the list here. So we have the light. I can turn the light on and I can turn the light off. I can lower its intensity, which I'm going to do. It's a little bit too bright. And attenuation is how far the light reaches. So if I bring it down, it's going to be smaller hotspot. There it's just on the table, and I raise it away from the table, it goes away. There it's down to the table and the floor. I have the cone angle, which changes the fall off. So the attenuation really changes the hotspot, where the brightness of the light is. The cone of it changes the fall off, where the light falls off to black, falls off to dark. I have, if I scroll down a little bit, I have color temperature. I can change the color temperature of that light, make it cooler or warmer. I can go to shadows and I can enable the shadows. So I enable the shadows and I'm getting some cool shadows on the floor, which I like a lot, but I want to adjust where the light is hitting. So I'm going to work a little bit with the attenuation on this and get some of it to still light up on the floor. And that's working right there. Let's see, let's go with my cone angle a little bit brighter. Okay, so I'm getting a little bit of hotspot and fall off. I could probably better position this light. If I get in here, if I press the F key, it zooms right into the light. I can try to look down on it. A little tricky moving these lights around. Alright, let's go with that. Double click on our image to get our camera view back. It's a little bright, the light, still, but we'll work with it as we go. Alright, so we're going to head on over back to Rhino and see what we're up to. So we've done adding assets. We have put the spotlight, and we talked a little bit about hotspot, fall off, and shadows, attenuation. Now we're going to do some point lights. And those point lights, I'm going to do those over here in Rhino because they're going to be specific to my Rhino file. So I'm going to go ahead and save as with this Rhino file. And this is going to be my TwinMotion lighting file. So I'm going to do some point lights. I'm going to do some recessed can lights. I'm going to do them on this side of the model here. So I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to call this recessed can. I'm going to go ahead and make that current. And I'm going to go to a top view. And I'm just going to type in circle. And I'm going to use my grid snap. And I'm going to snap somewhere in the middle of this, near the middle of this little building we're working on. And little pavilion, and I'm just making that 3 inches. So I made that 3-inch radius, a 6-inch diameter. I'm going to go ahead and copy it. I'm going to copy it 5 feet down and 5 feet up. Now before I copied it, I should have moved it to the ceiling. I'm sure those are on the floor, but that's okay. I can select those just by right-clicking on recessed can and choosing select objects. And then I'm going to move those. My grid snap's going to help me here because it's going to snap from the bottom grid to the top grid there. Let's make sure in the top view they're still in line. Alright, perfect. Let's look at those let's go ahead and extrude those. And let's look at that in the front view to extrude that. I want to extrude it up just 3 inches because my ceiling is 6 inches high or 6 inches tall. So I'm going to make this 3 inches. Alright, and then we're going to Boolean difference. Boolean difference. Select surfaces to subtract from, that's the roof. Select surfaces to subtract with. That is going to be my lights there. Now if I go back over to Rhino, I see a nice little light pocket. I'm going to make a piece of light trim. So I'm going to select that circle. I'm going to offset it 1 inch outward, and then I'm going to extrude both of those circles. So you see I have both circles selected. I'm going to extrude those down 1 inch. Alright, so now you see a nice little piece of trim there. I need to just copy it to the other location. So I'm going to select that, go to my top view, and go ahead and copy that. I can use my grid snap. It's working out for me. Let's go to perspective. Alright, so we see those nice trim lights there. So I'm going to make a point light. A point light is similar to an omni light, I guess you would say, yes. Similar to an omni light. It's a point light in Rhino. I'm going to make it current. I'm going to go to my top view and I'm going to type in the command point light. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and snap to that grid. And I'm going to make sure that that is at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and move it. And ideally I want it at the bottom of the ceiling. And that's where it is right there, at the very bottom of the ceiling, the bottom of the roof in this case, bottom of the ceiling. That's where you want that light. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that light. Alright, so we have 3 of those lights there. So let's see how this shows up in TwinMotion. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to click on the synchronize button, head over to TwinMotion. Okay, so I've been having some problems with this auto updating. So, and the reason that I'm having a problem with it is I'm doing a save as. I've saved the original file as a new file. So it's still linking in the old file, it's not linking in the new file. So I haven't found a way under file import to change it to the right file, to change it to the new file. It's still using my TwinMotion basics, it's not using my TwinMotion lighting. It's not finding the new file. So hopefully someone in the comments will find a better way to do this. Hopefully it's just a glitch in this version of TwinMotion and they look at fixing that for the Datasmith link. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back over to Rhino, and I need to close out Rhino. And unfortunately my Rhino takes a while to start up because it loads in. I have a lot of plugins that it loads in, so it's loading in my RhinoCam plugin, all my rendering plugins, so it takes a while to open up. We'll be patient for that to open up, and we're going to open up our TwinMotion lighting file. Alright, so let's see now if this links over. Let's click on synchronize and let's head on over to TwinMotion and see what we got here. Alright, so it hasn't found a new file yet. Okay, so even if I go to file import, okay, there it's found it. It's found TwinMotion lighting, so that's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to click on import. Alright, there it goes. Alright, so now we have the lights that came in already lighting up that ceiling, which is really cool. See the little icons for them, and you see the light lighting up that ceiling. I'm going to put the grass in because the grass didn't update. So you guys get to see a little materiality here. So I'll go to library, I'll go to vegetation. I'll go to, I'll go to library materials, go down to, where is the ground? Okay, ground, nature. I'll pick this grass 5. I'm going to drop it on there. Okay, there's the grass 5 dropped on there. Let's get back to let's look at some scale for that. So I'm going to go down to my materials, grass 5, and go to its properties, and I'm going to change its scale. Alright, that looks pretty good right there. Alright, let's go back to our camera view. Alright, so those lights came in. So let's take a look at those lights. Now I can look at those lights over here in the menu. And what I want to look at is I have my TwinMotion lighting file here linked. And it's also the old file linked here. So I want to remove the old link. I don't want double the geometry. So I'm going to just click on the three dots here and just click on delete. Okay, and my TwinMotion lighting, I'm going to move that up to the top. Okay, so just something to be conscious with when you're linking these files through direct link, so you don't have two files linked in there. You can have multiple Rhino, as you can see. You can have multiple Rhino files brought in, like a site file, a building file, or whatever file. But in my case, I'm just dealing with the one file. Okay, so TwinMotion lighting, I'm going to go under point light. And you see I can select those lights, and I could go to properties, and I could make changes to the lights. I could turn on the shadows, I could adjust the color temperature, I can do all these things to that light. I can adjust the intensity of those lights and make it really bright. So you see those come in and they do work. Okay, unfortunately they're not linked together, I don't think. Let's go to the other one. So let's get my properties down. Let's go to point light 2, go to properties, and let's go to intensity on that light. That's lighting up the floor a little bit. Let's do that with the other one. So I like it. I like that the light is reaching the floor, which is pretty cool. It's reaching that left wall too. So we're getting some good light. And I can always lower my exposure down in this particular scene by just clicking on interior camera there and lowering the exposure down, so a little bit darker, and then the lights are a little bit more prominent. Alright, this is looking great. I'm going to save this file so I don't lose anything. Alright, we're moving through this pretty good. So the next thing we're going to look at, let's head on over to Rhino and let's load in our outline. Okay, so TwinMotion lighting, we've looked at spotlight, we've looked at point lights, we've looked at changing the intensity of the light. The next thing we're going to look at is a rectangle light. Alright, so let's do that. Let's make a layer. It's always good to make layers for your lights. It's super important, especially for when it goes over to TwinMotion. So I'm going to make a layer. I'm going to call this layer soffit. We're going to draw a little soffit. I'm going to do this in my top view. So I'm going to go to my top view. I'm going to draw a soffit on this wall here. So I'm going to type in the command box. And I'm going to snap there. Draw this thing about 3 feet. So each one of my squares is 1 foot, so about 3 feet. And I'll make it 3 inches tall. Let's check that out in perspective. There it is there. Lower it down a little bit. Alright, let's go with that. Now that's my soffit. I'm going to go ahead and make a layer for my rectangle light. Make that current. And I'm going to make the rectangle light. I'm going to isolate the soffit by typing in the command isolate. And I'm going to go ahead and make a rectangle light. Just going to snap to this object. Okay, there's that light. It's pointing down. I'm going to see if I can rotate this. Okay, and that's pointing up. And I'm going to raise that up a bit. I'm going to turn off my grid snap to do that so I can get some freedom in raising it up. And I'm going to type in show. Alright, so that's that light. Let's get that to, let's save this and let's synchronize it, and let's get that to show up over in TwinMotion. Alright, perfect, wonderful. It shows up right there instantly, and we can control that in real time. So I'm going to go down to my rectangle light and choose light 7 and look at its properties. I'm going to change the intensity of it, make it nice and bright. Okay, my length and width I'm going to keep the same. What's attenuation doing in this case? Probably not too much. I can make it smaller, but it only can get so big. Alright, that's looking really good. Alright, I want to do some other things to this scene and make it really nice. Make sure I save it as I go. Okay, let's see what else is on our agenda. So we've made the rectangular light. The next thing we want to make is an emissive material, self-illumination. I love self-illuminated objects. You can do some really cool things with this. You can make any object illuminate. You can make planes illuminate, boxes, cylinders. So you can make these objects look like they're lighting the scene. So let's go ahead and make a new layer, and I'm going to call this emissive. Could call it, some softwares call it emissive, some call it self-illumination. TwinMotion calls it neon, so a little bit different there. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a box, not too big, and I'm going to go ahead and isolate that box. And I'm going to make it nice round corners, make it a nice soft box using fillet edge. I have to set my next radius to 6 inches, and then I can select the entire box, hit enter a couple times, and I got a nice soft cube there. Type in show to get everything back. Go ahead and save this. And I'm going to click on synchronize and head over to TwinMotion, and there's my box in there. Okay, so I'm going to drop a material on it. So I'm going to go to materials, and I'm going to scroll down under materials, and I'm going to go to neons, and I'm going to choose just a neon 1. I think looked pretty good. Let me try neon 2. Drop this off. Drop it on there, and you see that it's glowing and it's lighting up objects within its proximity. And I can lower the glow down. I can raise the glow up. You can go into details. You can add texture, temperature, saturation. Lots of settings here that you can deal with here. So you can change the tone of it, how saturated it is. So lots of little settings here that you can mess around with. I'm going to change its color a little bit. So here's the tint. Just show it in real time how it changes color. So lots of cool things you can do with self-illumination. That looks pretty good right there. Alright, some things I want to change in here. I want to change this floor to be a little bit reflective. So for that, I'm going to go down to the bottom here, and I'm going to go to materials, and I'm going to find my floor, and I'm going to go to properties. Let's see if this is the right one. So I'm going to go to details, and under, I didn't need details, but under roughness is where I'm going to find the reflectivity of that. So the lower this is, the more reflective it is. So let's get a little bit of reflectivity, not too much. I want to make it look like water. Something like that looks pretty good right there. So getting a nice reflective floor there. This is looking pretty good. How about a person sitting in the chair? That would be nice. So let's go to our objects. Not objects. Let's go to our characters and go to posed humans. And go to casual and find someone sitting down. We got Melissa, we got Kevin, we got Dolores. Let's drag Dolores in here. So it automatically finds the chair and sits them on it, and we can rotate that a little bit. Okay, so Dolores is in the dark. Dolores isn't very bright. Dolores doesn't have any light shining on Dolores. So let's get a light in there to shine on Dolores. So let's go to our library and let's go to lights. Let's put the object in first. So let's go to objects, home, and let's go down to living room and go to lamps, and we're going to choose this nice tripod lamp and bring that out. And then we're going to go to our library and we're going to go to lights, and I'm going to use a directional or a omnidirectional light, an omni light. I'm just going to place that omni light, and it's cool. It finds the table, it finds the ceiling, it finds the walls, and it finds where I can put it right inside this light fixture here, and you see that's lighting up Dolores pretty good there. Let's look at the properties for this light, and let's turn on some shadows. So I'm going to go ahead and select the light here and go to properties, and I can go to shadows and I can enable the shadows so I get some, you know, realism to the scene. Sometimes these shadows can be a little bit distracting. Let's move the light. Let's see if we can move this light right like so. So I'm getting the light shadow up on the ceiling there. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Let's see, what else do we need to do? I think we're just going to be outputting our image. Yeah, rectangular light, emissive material, self-illumination. Now render output under media, image, and export. So let's look at doing that. Okay, so we're going to go at the bottom to media, and it said image export. So media, and we're going to click on, under properties here, we're going to click on image, and I'm going to change the width and height. So right now it's full HD. We can go to 4K and we can go to 8K. I'm going to do something a little smaller, but a little bit higher than, a little bit smaller than 4K, but higher than 2K. So I'm going to put in my value here. I like to render these out at about 2500 pixels. That's good enough. 2500 by 1500, so a little taller proportion there. And I'm going to go ahead and go to export, and you'll see I'm going to export that as a PNG file. If we look here under image, I'm setting that as a PNG file. What do we have under details? Just some, if we want some motion blur and some other things here. So we're going to keep it the way it is by default. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to click Start Export. Hopefully it's going to export the interior camera. We'll see. We might have to change something. So let's see what happens with the default. So TwinMotion lighting is where we're going to save it. It's exporting that. That should go pretty quick in a second. Alright, so let's see what it actually exported out. Okay, so it's calling it, I think it's this one, this camera 1. So it exported camera 1. Okay, so this is something we have to look into. I like the way it's blazing in this view on the interior. So something we got to look into here. We have to tell it which image to export, which camera to export. So up near the top where it says 1 here, we're going to click on the 1, and you see it's left over from my basics video. Camera 1 is left over, so I'm going to deselect it, and I'm going to select interior camera, and now go back over to my start export and tell it where to start. It just automatically names the file the name of the camera in TwinMotion. So I called it interior camera, so it's going to automatically name it interior camera. Now I did have an interior camera there to begin with. Let's see if it renames it. I closed my closed my file explorer there. So let's go ahead and find that. Okay, it just made a separate one, 000, so that's pretty cool. It didn't erase the old one there. Alright, and there is the file. Alright, that's it for TwinMotion lighting basics, I would say. Well, who knows, I'll probably make another video somewhere down the line with some more advanced lighting tips. Alright, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, my head's going to pop up on the left, and you can click on that. A couple videos are going to pop up on the right side. Go ahead and look at those videos as well. Leave me some comments if you found this video helpful. Let me know. Alright, have an awesome day, and I'll see you on the next one.